What is going on, you guys? Austin Zay back here with another YouTube video, and in today's video I want to ask you a question. Have you ever thought that in order to build wealth you had to have a lot of money? Maybe you've even thought before that in order to get wealthy you had to be at the right place at the right time with the right people, and ultimately you just had to get really lucky. If you've had any of those thoughts, then you're not alone. I remember thinking the exact same thing many years ago, and in no way, shape, or form am I wealthy yet, but I will say that I am on track to actually build wealth. I used to get so frustrated because I was like, there's gotta be something that the wealthy people or the rich people know that I don't know, and I could never figure out what that was. And in today's video, I'm gonna share with you exactly how you can build wealth from $0, okay? So again, you're gonna wanna stay to the end of the video. You're probably gonna be surprised at how simple building wealth actually is, and I'm gonna break it down to you in a step-by-step formula that is easy to understand, so even if you have no money, no experience in business or investing in the stock market or in real estate or a Roth IRA or running an actual company, how you can actually start to build wealth immediately. If you follow the exact formula that I'm going to share with you here today, another thing you can do is make 6 figures on a yearly basis. Again, it just requires you to take these strategies that I'm going to break down for you and implement them into your own life. And keep in mind throughout the rest of this video that a lot of millionaires and even billionaires that you look up to actually started with no money. I mean, most of society, right? Most millionaires, most billionaires didn't just get born into their money. They didn't just acquire their wealth by being born. Now, that isn't to say that there aren't people like that, but again, the majority of wealthy people earned every single penny. So the question you've got to ask yourself is, what is the difference between you and them? If you're taking notes, then tip number 1 is to control your finances. Creating a budget doesn't cost anything to actually make, but it ends up actually netting you a significant amount of money, more than you probably even think. Even though you might not have any wealth at all watching today's video, what I want you to understand is that setting up your budget and actually taking control of your finances is the foundational key to building wealth over a long enough period of time. It will really help you slowly build your wealth without actually having to give up any of the things that you love. And I know if you're anything like me, when I was growing up and even recently, I thought, man, I really don't want to become wealthy if I have to give up the things that I love. I mean, I don't want to just have to be a workaholic and work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for a decade or 2 decades of my life in order to become financially free, financially independent. I wanted to travel. I wanted to do fun things. I wanted to drive a nice car and enjoy my life. And I didn't want to have to just put my face to the grindstone and work away while I was attempting to build wealth. It really is about having control over your monthly finances, right? It's not a matter of having to do things that you hate or having to do things that make you incredibly uncomfortable, right? It really is just a matter of control and discipline. And it took me a long time to realize that, but the moment that I realized what I'm about to share with you is the moment that honestly, my life changed forever. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm a normal average guy. I had above average goals and dreams. That is 100% for sure, but nonetheless, I'm a normal guy. I didn't get that great of grades growing up in high school, in elementary school, all the way up, and I didn't go to college. I didn't get a degree. And according to statistics, I probably don't deserve to be where I'm at, but I will say that I followed the tips and strategies that I'm gonna share with you right now, like controlling your finances, and truly, it'll change your life because I know it has changed mine. The main thing you want to do here is you want to write down your cash flow, your income, and your expenses, and you want to know exactly what those numbers are. You want them to be very accurate, and you want them to ultimately be written down so you can visualize and see exactly how much money you make, whether you have one stream of income, you work a 9-to-5 job, maybe you don't even have a job, right? Maybe you're 15 or 16 years old watching this video. What I will say is that no matter what situation you're in, you've got to write down the amount of money you make and the amount of money you spend. And once you can truly look at a piece of paper and understand where you're spending your money, then that will allow you to really take a good, long, hard look at where the money is going. And then you can ultimately maybe cut some costs or get rid of things that you don't necessarily need, right? But again, things that aren't going to make your quality of life any worse, right? These are things that we can look at and we can really figure out how to actually replace those items with maybe a cheaper item or a more affordable option that ultimately allows you to enjoy your life and allows you to save money in order to build wealth. If you're watching this video and you're younger, maybe you're below the age of 25, okay, you're somewhere between 15 and 25, but again, this will apply to you if you're older as well. You know, there's a lot of bigger expenses in life, right? Like buying a car or getting a student loan, potentially even buying a house, right? And those things cost a lot of money. We want to be very careful that we don't spend money on things we don't need. And you're also going to want to remember there's a lot of expensive things that you can buy that are investments, and they're good for your future. And it would be considered an asset or an investment. Even the stock market or a Roth IRA or a 401k or even potentially real estate. But rather than living in the real estate yourself, maybe there's other alternatives, which I talk about in many of my other videos, like buying a rental property or buying a duplex or a triplex or a quadplex and living in one of those units and renting the other units out so the tenants actually end up paying down your mortgage. At the end of the day, when it comes down to controlling your finances, what you really want to make sure is that you have more money at the end of the month and not more month at the end of the money. I know a lot of people that get that one wrong and they continuously complain for years and years and years because they don't understand for the life of them how they get to the end of every month and they're out of money. And that really boils down to controlling your finances, making good decisions, and ultimately setting money aside every single month. That way you can do the remainder of what we're about to talk about in today's video. And again, it doesn't have to be a lot of money. I want to be very clear, and we're going to keep going, but it can be a small amount of money. I hear a lot of people say, Austin, I only have $100 a month extra, or $200 or $300 or $400 or $500, but any amount of money that you can set aside every single month in an account that you don't touch and ultimately save that money, that is a phenomenal start. And you don't need to be making all kinds of crazy money to actually get started in building your wealth. Point number 2 is multiplying your income. Now, how in the world do you do that? We're going to dive into it right here, so definitely make sure you stay tuned. And I just want to point out, if you haven't already, smash that like button. I would really appreciate it. It does actually help out my channel a ton, and let's go ahead and get into it. This probably goes without saying, but if you want to build wealth, you're going to have to figure out how to earn more money. And if you're not earning any money, then you're going to have to figure out how to earn money to begin with. So if you're making money, I want you to earn more money. And if you're not making any money, we got to get you started in making money. Now, obviously, the first thing that comes to everybody's mind is to go get a job, and that is very practical. And if you're watching this video, you might already have a job, but if you don't, you need to go apply for a job, and you need to land a good job that can actually start to make you money. A lot of people have this false belief that you've got to work 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 hours a week, or you've got to have 2 or 3 jobs in order to just make extra money or to make a decent amount of money. And the reality of it is that is not the case at all. So let's go ahead and kind of dive into what I'm talking about here. If you're anything like me, you grew up and you were taught that you've got to work hard, right? You got to work hard, you've got to earn your way, and you've got to just claw your way to the top. And I just tell you, that is not 100% accurate, okay? I know that when I went back and really started to think about the things that I was taught growing up, a lot of it wasn't necessarily accurate. So what I want you to understand is that you've got to work smart, right? Working hard is only a part of it. At some point, you've got to work smart. So you've got a job, and that job allows you to pay for all of your living expenses. It allows you to pay for your car, your house, your rent, your phone bill, your insurance, whatever it is, right? Your Netflix account, okay? But you've got to figure out how to work smarter now. Moving forward, you can't just continue to trade time for money all the time. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can do this, and one of the most popular ways, in my opinion, is to get a side hustle, right? To find a side hustle that you can do on the side of what you're doing day to day, whatever that 9 to 5 job looks like for you, but to make additional money on the side that may not require as much time, which again goes back to the working smarter point that we were talking about just a moment ago. Pull out a piece of paper right now and write down the different things that you're good at, the different hobbies that you have, the different things that you're passionate about. Maybe you work every day, you have a 9 to 5 and you're an accountant, okay? You're a banker, you're a teller, you're working a fast food restaurant. Whatever the case is, what do you do in your free time? Maybe you really like photography. Maybe you like videography. Maybe there's something that you really enjoy doing that if you really thought about it, there's actually a way to monetize on what you're good at and what you're passionate at, and that can ultimately be a great side income for you. So what I want you to do is I want you to calculate how much money you make at your job, your 9 to 5, okay? You've got to dial that in and you've got to really look at it. And if you're making 30 or 40 or 50 grand a year, then you know the number. Once you know the number, now it is your responsibility to find a side hustle that you can do, again, to work smarter, to make additional money on top of the money you're making at your job. Now, let's just say you make $30,000 a year at your job, but you find out you're really good at photography, you're really good at taking pictures, you enjoy it a lot. Then you figure that maybe you can even make $100 or $200 a day doing photography. And there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. Number one, you could go take pictures for somebody else. Number two, you could take pictures and you could sell them on different websites that end up being stock photos, right? And I look at photos like this all the time and I use them for even my YouTube channel, right? Making today's video. So the reality of it is there's a lot of different ways to monetize on a hobby or on something that you're good at. And I want you to take a good, long, hard look at that, because the reality of it is if there is a way to make $200 a day from something related to photography, maybe you even make a course and you teach other people how to edit pictures, take better photos, change the settings on their camera. There are a ton of different websites out there like Teachable and Kajabi. And again, I'm not affiliated by these in any way, shape, or form. I just want to mention them because it is what I use on a day-to-day basis. But if you could make $200 a day from something related to your side hustle, you've got to do the math on that. Let's just say that you do that 5 days a week. That ends up being $1,000 a week. In other words, $48,000 a year working the side hustle. Well, you're only making $30,000 a year at your job. So the question becomes, at what point do you pursue the side hustle and you quit your job, right? And again, you don't want to do it at the wrong time, but you do want to make sure that if a side hustle can eventually produce more money than your main hustle, then it is probably time to rethink what it is that you're doing. And again, that goes back to working smarter. The third thing you have to do is you've got to invest in yourself if you want to become wealthy. And I know you've probably heard this before, but I really want to reiterate this. And it's just so important that you do what I'm talking about, okay? It'll change your life. And I just really encourage you to take what I'm saying, take notes on it, rewatch the video, drop into the comments section below, smash the like button, okay? Now let's go ahead and dive into how you can invest in yourself and why it is so incredibly important. I had a mentor in my life one time and he said, Austin, he said the most expensive real estate you'll ever own in your entire life is the 6 inches between your ears. He said, nobody can ever take that away from you. He said, you could get sued, you could go into foreclosure, you could go bankrupt, you could get publicly humiliated, and at the end of the day, nobody can take the real estate in between your ears. And what he was really saying is he was saying, Austin, if you invest in yourself first, everything else will come naturally. I had another mentor once tell me, he said, Austin, if it is to be, it is up to me. Meaning, if it is to be, it is up to you. Nobody's going to build wealth for you. At the end of the day, if you want something in life, you have to go out and earn it. You have to fight for it, right? You've got to do whatever it takes to make it happen. I encourage you to take up a new skill every single week. There are phenomenal websites out there that you can learn new skills on all the time. And you can teach other people how to do things. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. Another thing that I was told one time was, Austin, if you're going to consume content, why don't you produce content? In other words, you could even learn a new skill, right? But rather than watching Netflix or watching Hulu or watching your favorite TV show, why don't you learn a new skill? Why don't you learn how to play the piano? Why don't you learn how to play the drums? Why don't you learn how to speak a new language, right? There is literally apps that you can download on your phone that will teach you a new language. And you're like, Austin, How does this have anything to do with becoming wealthy? And the reality of it is, it has everything to do with becoming wealthy, because the more that you learn, the more that you'll earn. Investing in yourself doesn't mean just investing in education. Invest in your physical health, invest in your spiritual health, invest in yourself all the way around, because those things matter. The way that you look in the morning, the way that you feel will determine the way that you perform. That is the reality, right? If you don't feel good and you don't look good, you're not going to perform good. And if you're not performing good, I can't imagine you're going to become wealthy. I can't imagine that you're going to make a ton of money if you're performing like crap. So if you're not going to the gym and you're not taking care of yourself and you're not feeding your brain with the right information, how in the world can you expect to get wealthy? I encourage you to even pick up a book, read a book, get good at reading a book. If you hate reading, then get it on Audible, right? Get it on an Audible book and listen to the book. Listen to a podcast, right? Listen to something that is going to make you better. Fourth way that you're going to get wealthy is stop trying to keep up with the Joneses. In a nutshell, keeping up with the Joneses is where you're trying to purchase everything under the sun to make sure that you're keeping up with the guy next door. And I know we live in an era where social media dominates our life, and all we see every day is other people's highlight reel. We look at Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and Twitter and Snapchat and Facebook, and all we can think about is how other people are living such an incredible life compared to us. I mean, good Lord, we need a new car and a new house and a new watch and a new shirt and a new whatever in order to keep up with them, in order to quote unquote feel good. And that is not the answer. There's a lot of people out there right now spending money they don't have on things they don't even like to impress people they care nothing about. The truth of the matter is that most wealthy people live way under their means. So, in keeping up with the Joneses, what ends up happening, like most of America, you're living way above your means. And I don't know what the exact statistic is here, but I will tell you that 49% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And that has to be something to do with the fact that every American seems to be living above their means. They're buying a new boat, a new RV, a new house, a new car, and they can't afford it. And therefore, they're never able to save their money. They're never able to invest, and therefore, they will never be wealthy. You've got to figure out how to be a minimalist. You look at guys like Warren Buffett or Jeff Bezos or a lot of the guys on Shark Tank. You've all seen Shark Tank, like Damon John and Mark Cuban. A lot of these guys drove regular cars until they were worth a ton of money. They lived in regular houses. You've all heard the stories. You've seen the pictures of how wealthy people wear a t-shirt and jeans, and people that are trying to ball out or keep up with the Joneses have to have all this fancy stuff. Tip number 5, if you want to become wealthy, is to minimize your taxes. We all know that we have that secret partner, the one that we don't ever think about, and that is Uncle Sam. And he's there to take anywhere from probably 25 to 50% of every dollar that you make. But there's ways around that. There's ways to invest in things, to defer your taxes, to invest in real estate so that you don't have to pay as much taxes. There's things you can buy. You can set up an LLC, and I don't want to get into it, and I certainly don't want to give you legal or tax advice, so consult with your CPA or your accountant or your attorney. But at the end of the day, you've got to figure out the tax game. You can't just go make $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, and pay $50,000 or $100,000 in taxes. You're never going to get ahead. You've got to figure out how to minimize your taxes. Remember when we were talking about that side hustle a little while ago? There's actually ways to write things off. You can write off part of your house if you use your house as an office. You can write off your car as a vehicle that is for your business. You can write things off like computers or cameras or whatever the case is, and ultimately pay less money in taxes. You can even make things like charitable donations. You see a lot of wealthy people that donate to charities, and that is something that you can do down the line as well. I really encourage you to figure out the tax strategy. Figure out your tax strategy. Look it up. Watch a bunch of videos on taxes. Figure out how you can minimize paying the IRS so that you can maximize your life, right? And again, I do want you to consult with somebody that is a professional. I'm not a professional, but I will say that I've done a very good job at figuring my taxes out. And the reality for me is that I did a bad job for a long time. And I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I've made. So I just encourage you to definitely figure that out. But those are the 5 things that you've got to do to build wealth with no money. Now, there's obviously probably a few other things as well, and I'm happy to make more videos on it. So If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you would smash that like button. Again, it does help me a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And drop in the comment section below what you would like to see in another video. I'd love to make it for you. And until then, I'll see you in the next one.